guys, what did you think of UFC 270? Man, I'm seeing people go back and forth. There's people saying Brandon Moreno was robbed. Cyril Gane was robbed. I mean, Francis laid on top of Cyril Gane for 3.5 rounds. There wasn't, and then there's other people saying, his wrestling game is like evolved, which the fact that he's attempting wrestling and having success, I would have to agree with that. As far as him being an elite wrestler, I think he's just very strong. I don't think he showed that I don't think he proved he was an elite wrestler. I think he proved that he's very strong and he could hold somebody down for 3.5 rounds and let the clock run out. But I understand why he did it. And although it's not as fun for us, the viewers, to watch, there's a bigger fight going on. And I'm sure you've heard about some of it in the media with Francis's contract with the UFC. And there was a lot at stake with that. So it just happened that the fight goes hand in hand. Had he lost that fight, not just his reputation as a badass fighter would be devalued, but the UFC would have been able to devalue him and dominated him in the contract department. Francis did whatever he had to do to win. And it's crazy to come to light that, he came in hurt with a torn ACL. And that's like a huge risk. And Francis, his story is very moving within its own. It's very profound. He came from very, very poor upbringing, practically living under shelters with no flooring, things like that. It was bad. The UFC actually released some information on him revisiting where he grew up, and it showed the rock quarry he worked at, the sand quarry, and there's like high amounts of mercury in the soil and stuff, and they're just like touching it with their bare hands. He just grew up in not the best conditions, very poor. To overcome that and be where he's at now is insane anyway. Everything is stacked against him and he succeeds anyway. And I feel like that's exactly what he just did again in UFC 270 with fighting Cyril Gane. He did what he had to do to win, to succeed, and better his life and everybody's around it. I'm going to have to admit that I was wrong about something in one of my videos. I did a video talking about how Francis Ngannou may be making a mistake because his management, I even heard Dana said, I don't think he has the best management. And I was thinking that too, like, why are you biting the hand that feeds you? But after seeing 270 and finding out more information after the fight and after the fact, it goes a lot deeper than that with the contract. And these guys are playing chess, hard chess. I mean, if you look at Dana White talking from his studio in his home, you see a giant Art of War poster in the background. I don't know if you know anything about the Art of War, but it was written by, let's just say, an old Chinese guy named Sun Tzu. And the dude was a military strategist, military genius. And if you're watching this channel, you know what the Art of War is and you know who Sun Tzu is. But anyway, Dana has this poster like huge, prominent in his studio. So that should tell you right there where Dana's mind frame is. Business is war to him. The biggest fight in UFC 270 was between the UFC and Francis Ngannou's team. So we thought it was Brandon Moreno and Figueroa. We thought it was Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane, but it's not. It was UFC versus Francis Ngannou's team, and they were playing hardcore chess. I don't know everything about the contract. The position is that Francis Ngannou had to win that fight in order to get his way and be free of the contract, have no obligations, not have to ask the UFC for anything. So even with a hurt knee, a torn ACL that made him very compromised and immobile, going against an undefeated badass and then winning, that's pretty impressive. When I first watched the fight, I was like, ugh, he just laid on him and waited and ran out the clock. Because let's face it, that's exactly what he did. It wasn't a technical fight per se on Francis Ngannou's side. He tried to knock him out. He couldn't touch him. Cyril Gane was like Muhammad Ali. He was like, you can't hit what you can't see. That's a Muhammad Ali quote. So Francis got frustrated in the post-fight interview. He even admitted that he was getting frustrated, and he was like, this isn't good, I'm getting concerned. And then he was like, I'm just gonna do what I gotta do to win. So he used his strength, grabbed Cyril Gane, slammed him on the ground, and held him down there and ran out the clock, just being in a dominant position, and it worked, It wasn't fun for us, wasn't exciting for us, but he did what he had to do to better his life for himself, his family, and his team. That's why that fight ended that way, and that's why he was even in the fight in the first place and didn't decide not to do the fight. He could have decided not to do the fight, waited out his contract, and then boxed after his contract was up. But he decided to do the fight, complete his contract. I'm not exactly sure how there's a champion clause in there. So technically, if he won this fight, he was supposed to fight one more. Francis doesn't think so. So they're probably willing to go to court over that. So this may not even be over. But Dana says that under the champion clause, he has to do one more fight if he wins this one. Because in his contract, if he was the champion, the contract is for 8 fights. But if he's champion and wins the 8th fight as champion, he has to give him one more fight. I don't know exactly where the cards are going to fall on that part of the contract, but it's in there. So Francis is under the opinion or the idea that he's done with his contract. And they haven't re-signed another contract with the UFC yet. So his options are open. We've heard Tyson Fury call him out and to fight with MMA gloves, do a boxing match with MMA gloves, which is badass. And that's not by accident, Tyson Fury wasn't just bored one day and then got on social media and said, hey, let's fight with MMA gloves, a boxing match with MMA gloves. There's conversations had by management. So Dana didn't show up to the post-fight interview, and he didn't put the belt around Francis. You know why? Because they were playing a chess game, and Francis Ngannou's team took Dana White's queen.
That was really weird referring to Ngannou as a queen. But what I mean, I wasn't referring to Ngannou as a queen. I was referring to, metaphorically, that in this chess match, they took his queen, his most powerful player.
That most powerful player was supposed to be Francis Ngannou losing that fight so the UFC could have leverage to keep his pay where they believe it should be, And it's just business. If you owned a business, would you be in the business of giving away as much money as you could? If you had an employee that you paid $100,000 a year and he was like, no, I want $1.5 million a year, would you be in a hurry to do it? So hating on Dana White over fighter pay is kind of weird. Also, it's not the same as the NFL and sports leagues and stuff like that, where the whole team, you know, gets paid, what is it, like 48%, something like that. It's not the same. You know, this is MMA. They do have teams, but it's different, you know? It's not all the teams fighting in there, even though they feel like they are. And you can't blame them. But you do have one fighter and one fighter fighting. It is different. I'm not going to get into the business of it, but it's different. Dana kind of felt emotional, I'm sure. You know, when the stakes are this high. And Dana's baby is the UFC, you know what I mean? So he protects it like a Sun Tzu warrior. And he's the strategist, and he's a brilliant strategist. I mean, I wonder if Dana White actually plays chess, because if he does, I would love to play him someday, because, you know, I'm pretty good at chess. Not that many people can beat me, and Dana is so good at business. If he plays chess, he might be able to beat me. And that would be interesting. I don't know. Just a lot going on here. I paid the freaking $80 pay-per-view, and the best fight I saw that night was the fight between the UFC and Francis Ngannou's team. Anyway, if you like the content, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Throw me some likes, and freaking
ring that bell.
Catch you guys next time.